Chiefs needs weapons. Seth knows who he wants. I know who I want. We're going to get into it tonight, but you got to help Patrick Mahomes. We'll also answer your questions in the second half. This is going to be a fun one tonight. Welcome to RGR Football. Here we are, Chief in the North with Seth Meyer. I'm just Joe running the stream. How are you, folks? We're glad that you're here. Seth, it's been another week. It's been a little quiet. Are you doing all right without news?
You know, I kind of thought something would happen this week. I figured one way or another. There is a report that the Chiefs aren't actually in on Bradbury because of the 1-year hit of his contract, which is interesting to me. Like, to me, it's kind of like little weird teams acting like it's coming from a position of strength there where it's really, really not, but that's okay. Whatever. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's been a quiet week after what felt like it was always like one big thing at least. And so that's finally allowed me to dive into draft content, which has been fun. I get to watch players I haven't watched before. Now, see, the problem for me is I just have a problem. I was talking to Briscoe, and I was talking about the difficulty of doing draft content starting this late in the game. It's like, you really got to review every snap for at least 3 or 4 games. And even then, 3 or 4 games, I'm not always comfortable with that as a sample size, but it's what you have, especially at the college level. This year, thanks in no small part to you, my friend, because of just pointing in directions. I've got some all 22 film to take a look at, which is nice. That's been an upgrade for me this year, which is good because I'm looking at receivers.
Right.
And you want to be able to see what they're doing on routes they're not getting thrown to. And it just, the broadcast varies so much. You ever notice that? Not just, way more so at the college level, how far out the broadcast is.
Yep.
It's just varies so much. It does that at the pro level too, but not as much. The pro level is more zoomed out than it used to be, which is nice.
True.
It used to be just way, and it seems like every year they travel back just a little farther, which is nice. We still can't see everything you want to see. So that's been fun. But anyway, so I was telling Briscoe, I'm just having a hard time doing it. I'm trying to I'd love to write about 2 or 3 prospects at a time, but it's just hard to put in that kind of work and turn around an article as quickly as I'd like. And he goes, Seth, you could just do 1 or 2 games. And he's like, but you're not going to do that. I was like, no, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I can't possibly do that. And he's like, so it's like you're your own worst enemy there. And it's true. Because what I really want to do is look at, I think I've got a list of 12 or 13 receivers. I'm done with 2 of them. I'm going to try to do 2 more at least this weekend, maybe more. I want to do the articles 2 at a time, but it just takes a while to do it right. And so after that, I want to get to some edge rushers because there's one in particular, the guy from Minnesota, Boye Mafe. I'm saying that right?
Yep, you got it.
Because I know you like him, and that means a lot to me. And so I want to see him because it looks like he'll probably be available for the Chiefs. Maybe. At least within striking distance. If they wanted to trade up and grab him because they've got the ammo to do that without really hurting themselves. So I want to see him, and there's a few other guys. There's a dude out of Wisconsin that I really want to watch as well. Can't remember his name.
Noah Burks? Or Leo Chanel, the linebacker?
He plays somewhere on the defensive line.
I like that.
And this is what you get with me, though. I'm new to the draft process, and I dig it. When I was like, I'll watch Traylon Burks first, and then I'll watch Drake London. And I had people saying all these things to me before I even started. They're like, oh, well, this guy, that guy. And they're like, what do you? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, I don't know. And it's interesting. After watching Burks, I had an opinion about him. And then after watching London, and you get a chance to compare 2 guys, it alters your opinion of the first guy. So I'm really excited to write the final piece about what exactly I would do if I were Veach and what things would look like if it were me. Because once I get a look at everyone, because part of where you would draft a guy, it's not just about that guy. It's about the rest of the guys. If you've got, 8 guys that you would be comfortable taking in the first round, that alters whether or not you're going to be willing to trade up for a guy. Because why would you do that?
That's a tier, my friend. That is a tier.
Yes, those tiers. And so I'm excited. It's fun. It's just going to take a little bit. But I mean, what else are we going to do in the meantime?
Oh, I still have probably 30 prospects to do. So yeah, I know exactly how you feel, folks. If you want to get all this, you got to go to his Substack because that's where he writes.
It is.
He doesn't write here. He just talks to us here. And that's why it's right here at Minnesota Chiefs fan at substack.com. My Substack is actually coming here eventually. And that's going to be my personal rankings, Dan's rankings, some fill-in stuff. Don't worry. I'm not going to write an article. No one has to deal with my spelling.
Oh, okay.
I don't do
great.
that.
I think everyone who creates content by and large should have a Substack. It's been an awesome platform that has made my life really easy. I know you and I have chatted about it a little bit. So
yeah, for sure.
I mean,
honestly, if you had said it was a bad experience, I probably wouldn't do it because my content is all going to be draft oriented. So it's got to be easy.
Right.
What it is.
And they've made embedding videos and stuff and podcasts easier on there. The Matrix. I've already referenced The Matrix like 8 times. I didn't get to reference it with Drake London because, he obviously didn't do testing.
Right.
Which I looked for him and I was like, where is he? And then
and
that's how little I know about the draft. I didn't know that he didn't run.
Well, I'll tell you, he's running next Thursday.
Oh, that'll be big for him.
Friday night. It's on the 15th.
Maybe bigger than it should be, honestly. Because, I mean, what would it take for him to we can get to that. But, I mean.
Let me get the work in here. Folks, go to Rogue APC, get the Matrix first. The draft guide should be done next week. I'm aiming at next Wednesday. Lot going into it this year. I'm actually releasing our film grades, my film grades, and Dan's, as well as EJ Holt, our newest member. We're going to have them all incorporated into the guide. First time ever I've done that in 13 years producing a draft guide. So that's exciting. You can use this same code RGR22AM on that as well. So you'll get the same discount. If you're new to this channel, you don't know what the heck we're talking about. He's Seth Kaiser from the Athletic and his Substack. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. That's what RogueAPC.com is. And like this video, please, it helps us reach more Chiefs fans. Sub to this channel because it helps you get more information, and click that bell because that tells you when we're actually doing something, especially when it comes to the draft, because Dan's going to be live the whole draft, at least nights 1 and 2. Seth's going to join him at times. Matt Derrick's going to join him at times. At least you said you would anyway. I'm putting a little pressure on you. I will be on television.
I say all kinds of things.
I know, right? We'll try to keep you.
No, I will try to pop in. Dan being willing to do that live. He's a crazy person, but he's a good man.
He is.
That is a lot of air to fill.
He was with me last year where I did 14 hours live during draft weekend.
14 hours live. I mean, that's just a lot of. He's gonna need a lot of liquid, a lot of caffeine, some bathroom
Patience
breaks
from the wife. Yep.
Yeah, permission from the wife. Honestly, if it were me, you know what? I'm gonna give him advice because, honest to God, I would be during commercial breaks and that kind of stuff. I'd be pulling in my daughter Isabel and asking her what kind of unicorn is her favorite unicorn and crap like that. Because that's good content. I'd watch that. My daughter's adorable. Everyone should watch her do stuff. If you're watching Isabel, I love you.
Folks, don't worry. I know there's super chatters out there. We are going to answer all your super chats tonight. So if you want to stack those up, go ahead. This isn't the Q&A, so we'll try to answer some other questions as well, but the super chats will definitely get answered. So hit that. You can support us by buying gear in the RGR store, going to Rogue APC, whatever you need to do. Whatever you like the best, you get something for it either way. So with all that out of the way, with all this work going on and you jumping into it, it comes back to the weapons that you need to give Patrick Mahomes. And you've done 2 guys now. Don't want to take away from the articles, although one is unlocked, right?
Yeah, Treylon Burks is unlocked, and that's also the article that I kind of laid out the methodology. While once we're at a little bit of a break, will post the link to it in the comments. That way people can just grab it. So that one's unlocked. Oh, are you Holly? That is awesome. Is it the strawberry kiwi then? Because look, I'm sorry, they still haven't called, which I don't think they need to. Because they seem like they're doing well. But this, man, the watermelon flavor is good. I'm not a fan of all their stuff, like the Bing cherry. I'm just like,
it's not a thing.
The watermelon is good. This strawberry kiwi, if you're someone who like remember strawberry kiwi soda, which I feel like I never find it anymore. This stuff is unbelievable, and it only has like a gram of sugar. 1 gram.
So nice. It's a lonely gram.
Yeah. That's how I got my svelte figure. Keep it zoomed out.
Well done.
But I'll post a link in the comment section to this article. So Treylon Burks is unlocked, and it kind of details the methodology, what the Know Your Draft Crush is going to look like, who all I'm looking at. I'm looking at basically the guys you'd expect, kind of like maybe serve as like a top 12 list of receivers. Although one of them, Calvin Austin, the third, I'm looking at because you want me to. Ryan, That's how much pull you have with me. And this is just in order, okay? In alphabetical order. Austin the third, David Bell, Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson, Drake London, Sky Moore, Chris Olave, George Pickens, Alec Pierce, Jalen Tolbert, Christian Watson, Jameson Williams, and Garrett Wilson. I miss any names there you think are important?
No, I think you hit the most. Like I have some second day guys that I think you should. I'll give you their names. It's really time consuming.
If I get a chance, because I'm mostly looking at guys that I think they'd take in the first round, right?
Right.
After that, it just becomes with the draft, and that's one reason I don't spend. I'm not Dane with the Athletic. I mean, that's what he does all year. And the Beast came out today, and honest to God, no one does it better than that man. Every year you read that thing, you're like, he like gives like the background on the he grew up an only child of a beet farmer who named Dwight Schrute, and it's just like, holy cow, how did you do this?
Every year there's a draft pick that gets made that I don't know, and I go find it in Dane's Beast. It's
always in there.
Yep.
It's always in there. It's unbelievable, and that's why for him, that's what he does. That's his year-round thing. All right, I'm posting a link to the article right now. Nope, that's the wrong thing. That's a link to the page that you're currently on. That's so funny. So if you post that link, it'll feel pointless. There we go. The link that I just posted, the Know Your Draft Crush. I think that's the comment section, but it'll bring you there. And if it doesn't, well, I can't do this anymore. Man, I'm bad at life. Anyway, so basically the methodology is you take a look, you try to gauge every potential draft pick based on the same set of criteria. You're judging the same thing for each guy. And so with wide receivers, I'm looking at speed, acceleration, agility. Where's my list? So speed, acceleration, agility, they're all part of athleticism. That's something that you look at with the athletic matrix. And those are different things. Those are all different things. Acceleration, you'd probably replace that with explosion, maybe.
It depends what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because explosion can be a couple different things. In and out of cuts is one thing. Straight off the line is one thing. On a stop-start basis is one thing. Jumping. These are all different things. And that's one reason the matrix is so valuable is you try to differentiate. So speed, acceleration, agility, releasability at the line. And that by itself is its whole thing. There's a lot that goes into it. Route running, which really could be like 8 different categories, but we're trying to, condense the stuff. Hands and strength at the catch point, and then yards after catch. Every single one of them will probably address blocking to an extent. Blocking is bonus with wide receivers. Right. It's a nice bonus. If someone's really good at it, they can add value. But that's with a wide receiver.
Nice to have.
Tyreek Hill is a garbage blocker.
Yeah. I mean,
he doesn't even
it's not
try.
the job.
Yeah, that's not his job.
Run away from dudes.
Yeah. We don't want Tyreek Hill blocking guys. You know what I mean? And that's just an example to give. Like, you don't have to be a great blocker. Now, to be fair, some of these guys in this draft class get after it to the point I'd be like, okay, settle down when you're in the pros. Because it's like, I don't need you taking on that linebacker. Like, no, just get in his way and kind of fend him off a little bit. Does it look ridiculous? Sure. Does it slow him down?
Do it again.
It's like, no, don't get my running back. I don't care how stupid it makes you look. It's a 240-pound linebacker. Don't engage. You're a wide receiver. This is the pros now. These dudes are built different, and they will just imagine what Nick Bolton would do. If some wide receiver came around the end to try to seal him off, he is going to hurt that man. And that's why you can't do that at the pro level. So anyway, the Treylon Burks one, that's unlocked. Check it out. See if you like it. Subscribe if you haven't already, please. I need to move to Florida, people. There is hold on. Oh, you can't really see it outside. There is 5 inches of snow again out there. And I'm dying.
You live there. You know this. This is not a surprise.
Well, but it took me by surprise this time. I was on a walk with my wife 2 days ago. It was beautiful out. And then just wham! I couldn't even drive my Camry out of the driveway 2 days in a row. I had to take the Yukon, which I like driving better because, hey, hashtag GMC rules. I don't know. That's a great. Yukons are awesome. Yukons and Suburbans, I could sell those babies if they didn't sell themselves. But you subscribe. Get me out of here. And then we'll start moving on talking about actual draft stuff. So anyway, Burks is unlocked. Drake London is locked. You got to pay to play with that one.
That's okay. Folks, I know how to do that. I will tell you where you can do that. It's right here.
Right there.
Let's talk about Burks first, since it's open, everyone. You went through the methodology, how you get there. What is your bottom line impression of him as a prospect? Is he worth a first round grade to your value system?
No. If it were me, I would not draft Treylon Burks for the first rounder. If the Chiefs did it, I'm not going to, tear my clothing and sprinkle ashes on my head, as I am wont to do. But
okay.
It's a biblical reference. I had to get one in there, tore at my beard if I could grow a beard. Okay, easy. You know what? When puberty hits, this thing's going to sprout. So with Treylon Burks, it's not that I dislike him as a prospect. What I said ultimately is, having not looked at anyone else, if the Chiefs took him with their later second round pick, I'd say, okay, because there's potential there. The thing with him, and I actually referenced the athletic matrix on this, what guys do in shorts isn't dispositive, but you can use it to confirm what you think you're seeing. And it's man, this guy looks like, because one thing you read about Treylon Burks before testing, so it's oh, he's a great athlete. I guess I don't see that on film. He's a decent athlete for his size, and he's got solid top end speed. But
it takes a while to get there, doesn't it?
It takes him a while to get there, and he's not shifty at all. And you occasionally see little glimpses of stuff, but he wasn't really asked to run a real route tree in Arkansas. So you don't really know how much route running can improve those cuts, and those cuts aren't great. He is a playmaker. He's explosive, hard to tackle, good with the ball in the air. Really good with the ball in the air. But you're hoping that his ability to win that way outweighs some of his downfalls. And that's a tough. He's a boom or bust guy, I think. I don't think he's going to be a good pro. I think he's either going to be a very good pro or a kind of guy. And I don't know if there's a lot of, I don't think there's a lot of in between there. And I think taking a guy like that in the first round is tough to do. Now, that's a risk you take with every draft pick. Let's face it, this is a crapshoot. Honestly, if I end up liking 10 of these guys, these receivers, I might say, screw it, take 2 receivers in the first 3 rounds. And
could be,
given what's happening with wide receiver contracts right now, that might be good business.
It might be.
Because
real quick, will you answer Cole's question here?
Yes.
It's about the subscribe page.
I'm on the subscribe page. There's no $12. The coupon is still valid. How do you access it? So, Cole, what I want you to do is go to the Treylon Burks article and just click one of the buttons in there that says get 60% off forever. That's the coupon button. And don't feel bad about using the coupon button. I'm going to tell you the same thing that Ryan says. Hey, look, if someone wants to subscribe for the full $30 a year, great. I appreciate you very much. But you don't have to. I never want price to be a reason someone can't subscribe to something, because that would be horrible. So here's the coupon is now in the comments. Right below Aaron Morrow saying, thank you, Bill Bradley.
Rock and roll.
That's where the coupon is to subscribe for $12 a year. And that price is forever, by the way. I'm not going to raise that to $50 a year next year. I'm not going to raise it to $15 next year. That's $12 a year forever as long as you subscribe. So, Burks, what do you think? We talked about him a little last week, but
I'm really glad to hear that you have arrived at the same opinion that I have, is that he is not a first round selection, that his flaws are not as outweighed by his pluses as everyone seems to think. I do think he is a valuable player in that if you select him at 64 or 62 or 94 or wherever in that range, I think he does bring something to the table. We've seen him jet sweep as well. He can run those low drags with a lot of power. Like he seems like a more powerful Juju to me.
And that's something, and there's value in that, but you're banking on him being able to run routes like Juju does, because it's not like Juju's just winning off of pure physical ability. He's become a really good route runner. He does win with the ball in the air. That's important. And he will just throw corners off him as the ball approaches. Too much, really, because he got flagged.
I mean, for it. And people love his film against Alabama, and they should. It was a heck of a day.
Yes.
There was as much bad corner play in that game as there was good wide receiver play, in my opinion.
Right. And just because it's Bama doesn't mean those guys played well.
Right.
It does mean that they're good prospects, overall. You're not starting corner at Bama without being a guy that's probably got his eyes on making the pros one day. Even if you don't, you came out of high school, people thinking you were a future pro. If you're starting corner at Bama. So there's that he can hang with someone who has the physical traits of a future pro, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily a future pro. There was some bad corner play that day, and you just, the way that he wins with the way he does it at the college level, he might be able to keep doing it, but he might not. So he's a risk. And here's the other problem, and this can maybe roll us right into Drake London. Please. Drake London wins the same ways Treylon Burks wins. He's just better at it. And he's more athletic. Substantially. Yes. Drake London is an animal with the ball in the air. I mean, and I know people are going to, well, you got to be able to get separation. For one thing, and we can talk about this, Drake London can get a little bit of separation. He gets separation better than Burks does.
Short areas, coming out of that last cut at the top of the seam with a guy on his back.
Slants and ins. He can plant with one foot and drive.
Yep.
Now, is he quick? No, but that one cut, think of it like a one cut runner running outside zone.
The guy's been a basketball player for 1,000 years.
Yep.
He just quit USC basketball last season.
Yeah.
Like, it's a post up, 1 foot in the ground, and he gets enough separation with those arms that he can do
it. And it bursts him a couple yards pretty quickly, gets him a little separation. And here's the interesting thing. When you can win like he can with the ball in the air, and we should really talk about that in a minute, all you need is a few other routes. That's it. You don't need to win on every route on the route tree. Almost no one does. Right. Tyreek Hill won on almost every route on the route tree.
Does Mike Evans?
Mike Evans doesn't. Although he wins on more than people give him credit for. He's a good overall player. But you don't need to be elite on every route. If you can win with the ball in the air at an elite level, but you also can threaten teams. Hey, thanks, Cole. Shout out to you. But you can also threaten teams on short ins, maybe, a little slant, maybe, quick comeback. Those little things that forces teams to make a tough choice with you, especially if you show a little bit of savvy against zone coverage, which I saw a larger sample size of that with Drake London than I did with Burks. And to be fair, it's not like USC had him running like a really great route tree, but it was pretty complete, way more than Burks. And so you see a little more savviness to his game. And so here's my thing is this. If you've got a Drake London and a Treylon Burks in the same class, London wins the same way and is much better at it, and I think is a better athlete. And so I'm curious if he's one of your guys.
I can project him to win it that way in the NFL as well. The projection is not as easy for Burks.
Right.
So he's not necessarily one of my guys.
Right.
But he is in my top 5.
And you can project him to win that way in the NFL better because his size is more conducive to it. His arm length is more conducive to it. And Burks is a big dude. I mean, he's like 6'2", 230, something like that. London is a big dude too. He's like 6'4", 220. He's a little more lean, but he's got great arm length. And his ball skills are, off the charts.
Yeah.
Did you watch Colorado when you reviewed him?
Colorado, no.
They tried press man coverage against him all game because that's what Colorado does. And it's not like I'm not saying these are incredible prospects, but like I mean he just destroyed these guys, and he doesn't need any separation. He can get a little, but down the field, even if they catch up, he is not like we all saw what Jamar Chase did. This is not a player for player comparison. Jamar Chase is a unique player in that he has this absolutely elite ball skill stuff, and he's a more explosive athlete. That's just rare. You're not going to see those guys. But in terms of catch point dominance, it's similar. I mean, and it's stuff that's repeatable. The ability to time your jump perfectly, repeatedly across 4 games that I reviewed. This isn't a 1 or 2 time thing. This isn't him adjusting the ball in the air and the ball bouncing off him in his lap. Because that's something you see with some guys like, oh, he's a great jump ball guy, and he jumps and lets the ball come to him. This is, I mean, reaching in the air, snatching the ball out, and then moving it away from where the corner's trying to, bat it down and coming down to it. And it's snap after snap after snap. London is a stud. And I think, like you said, you can project him to win that way at the next level because he's going to be just as much bigger against these guys. And if guys try to play him physical, I think I think he's just going to be able to tell his quarterback, similar to what Chase can with Burrow, dude, I'm going to go throw it up there to that outside shoulder and just put it out of their reach. And if it's catchable, I'm coming down with it. Because he'll take shots while he comes down with it and he collects. I mean, I know people say drops were an issue with him, but that's partly because he was targeted like 30 times a game. You're going to have more drops than other guys.
Exactly. But he was targeted by some lower level quarterbacks. And that's another part of the equation for me. Like he was making the most out of bad passes at times. And Night Hunter, I want to address your question. You have a good point. He is in my top 5 because I think he's one of the top 5 best wide receivers in this class. But in this offense, other than 2 passes to Jody Fortson, we have not seen Patrick Mahomes throw balls to a guy that doesn't win with separation. That's my reasoning.
That's true. One thing that's interesting,
though,
is Mahomes would throw stuff up to Hill.
True.
And Hill,
but not in a contested coverage kind of situation.
That's true. Occasionally you get Kelsey, but that's it. And then, like you said, a couple to Fortson. And then you wonder chicken or egg,
Exactly.
Because the iteration they had of Sammy wasn't really that guy. And that was never what his game was predicated on anyway. I very much think we've seen Mahomes adapt to every style, every type of thing that's happened. I think if a dude like London, who, by the way, do I think he's going to be there at 29? No. Although I keep hearing about different receivers, like, this guy's going to go earlier than you think. And it's like about 5 different receivers who aren't London.
It went into chaos when Jameson Williams got hurt. He was the clear number 1. He was on top of my board, Dane's board, Jeremiah's board. Like we all had him up top. And then he got hurt, and then it's all free for all because now it's all projection based.
Yep. And so I think if you end up with a guy like that or a Burks or whatever, I think Mahomes would learn to win that way. It would just be a matter of trust, earning that trust, snatching a few like that. In training camp, I mean, basically that's what would happen. You would see him testing it out in training camp. And I bet you anything you would hear, let's say the Chiefs draft Drake London, right? They drafted him in the first round. I bet you would hear in training camp, Mahomes has been picked off a few times targeting the new guy or sailed the ball out of bounds a few more times than normal. And what he would be doing is saying, okay, let's see the boundaries of what you can do. And if the minute he snatches a few away from Juan Thornhill or L'Jarius Sneed or whoever, he's going to throw it up to him. And I think Drake London is a guy who will bully corners at the next level. And I think he could really add something to the offense. I really like him a lot.
I would love to see it because he can run out of the slot too. I'd love to see him, Travis, attacking the slot and just destroy everyone.
Yep. Runs well after the catch. Yep.
Folks, we are to that point. We're going to start answering some questions. We are going to wrap it a little bit early tonight because I have an event at school that I need to get to. So for those of you who have not super chatted, we'll try to answer your questions next week on the Monday night show. Just real quick, the last one I saw was Chris Weeks. Chris, Pascal, I just finished him and I have him as a DT, not an edge. Brandon, thank you for your super chat. Appreciate you very much. First shout out I want to give is our newest member.
Ooh.
And that is Lee Mosby. Welcome to RGR. I'm glad that you're here. It's always nice when somebody joins because that means you really want to be in the information. If you join at the rookie level or above, send me an email at rgrpodcast@gmail.com and I'll get you into the big thing is Discord. Members are adding all the time because it's a community just for our members. You got to be a rookie level or above, and that's why it's exclusive. So let me know if you get there. So we're going to get on to our super chats. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Canadian Chief, I put you up there earlier. Thank you for that. Mark, Christian Watson is a really interesting prospect. He's very, very raw. We'll see what Seth gets out of him when he watches his film.
He's on my list.
Is he? Okay. Craig, do the Chiefs need a running back? You can trust in pass protection. Possibly. I think you feel good about Rojo. They got to test it out. And they're hoping that CH can grow up in that. If not, it was a mistake to let Darryl go, in my opinion. But that's just
right. And that's why signing Jones is such a weird thing. We talked about that last week. It certainly appears that CH is going to be the third down guy this year. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I don't know why you'd sign Jones.
I'm exactly with you. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Judge, is Casey out on DK Metcalf? No. They should be, but no. As I understand it, the Seahawks are still open to discussions. I think this is going to be a draft night trade for the Seahawks, whether it's the Chiefs or someone else. So I won't say no.
They'll want to see if someone will bite on this whole, they want 2 first rounders, which is classic. I hate positional bargaining. I hate it so much. And it's just classic positional bargaining. We want 2 first rounders, but we'll settle for what the Chiefs got for Tyreek Hill. Right. I think it's a lateral move. I understand DK Metcalf is 4 or 5 years younger. I get that. So that great. Mm-hmm. I think trading away trading what you got for Hill to then switch to Metcalf and pay him about as much money, that doesn't make sense to me. The only way it makes sense for the Chiefs to trade for a receiver is if they pay him either the equivalent or less than what they paid Hill, ideally less because Hill's one of the best in the game.
Yeah.
And they don't have to trade away the haul that they got for Hill. And ideally some combination of it. Let's say they had to trade away 1 first rounder and the guy they signed for 19 or 20 a year, right? With, all the usual fiddle faddling with the contract. If it's a high level guy, if it's, Scary Terry, someone like that, I could live with that because then you went from Hill to McLaurin to a younger guy who's not quite as good, but you also got a 2nd round pick and a 3rd round pick and a 6th round pick. You know what I mean? So you end up, somewhat equivalent with a guy that wanted to go to Miami. Other than that, to me, this looks like a deep wide receiver class. Just grab a guy you like. Grab 2 guys.
And that's what Teddy's getting at. Thank you, Judge. Appreciate you, Teddy. Thank you for support. Appreciate you. Rank these wide receivers and where you have them. And Seth hasn't gone over yet, so I'll just knock this out. On my board, it's Dotson above Burks, Burks just above Mechie, and then it will be Pierce, Moore, Dubs. That's the way that I have them right now. I've got 3 or 4 films done on each of them, or Dan does, and then I'm wrapping it up with a couple that I'm putting on top of it. So we'll have those for you next week, Teddy. Stephen Ferguson, thank you. I have 2 questions, if that's okay. Why are you so against drafting a running back in the top 100? Say Breece Hall drops to that level, and you can't deny. I'm sure I can. He could really bounce. Okay, so you only had 1 question, though, Steve. Because running back as a position is not as valuable as you think. Because running backs are so dependent on blocking to be actually functional outside of catching passes, you have to have the O-line in order to make them good. And if you're not going to take a pass catching back and then actually use them to catch passes, CEH, you end up in this conundrum where you took a 1st round back and you're like, why did we do this? This is why. Because you can find guys that can run and catch as UDFAs, as 7th round picks. The skill sets, while they might not be elite, they're very comparable, and you can paste together a group.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
And a running back with 80% the skill of another running back, it doesn't move the needle nearly as much as a receiver with 80% of the skill of another receiver. The exceptions are guys like Jamal Charles, and those guys barely exist.
Yeah. There's not even a tree for them to grow on.
Yeah.
So thank you, Steven. Appreciate you. Here's your second one. I did find it. I hear you talking about drafting an OT. You describe him as a discount Eric Fisher. Shouldn't we draft an OT with more power? The rest of the line is built that way. I'm talking about Abraham Lucas from Wazoo. And no, you shouldn't, because that's not what Lucas Niang is. He is not a power OT. If they want to make that transition, you go draft Daniel Faalele because he is a less athletic version of Orlando Brown. Yes, enormous length, enormous size, you bulldoze. I don't think that's what they want to do. And quite frankly, even if they do, I want to have a swing tackle that's athletic enough to play both sides. And that's important. And that's why I would go for somebody like Abe Lucas, who has proven that he can do a little bit of it all. And in that Fisher mold is more athletic than he is powerful. So he can fill in for you wherever you need him. That's the reasoning, Stephen. Do you disagree with that?
People have to understand with Orlando Brown, his intelligence as a player is underrated. Yes, he's huge. He's got natural physical gifts, but not every dude that's built like him can play as well as him at tackle because he's a very smart player who really has built his game around his strengths. I think he's going to be better in year 2, and I think that's why he hasn't signed a long-term deal yet.
Yeah, that's probably it as well. Thank you, Stephen. I hope that answered your question. Speedy, how do you feel about Jalen Tolbert and Velus Jones? I know he's a bit older, but he's productive on special teams and in the slot. Jalen's an interesting guy. Like I like him on day 2, probably on the later end of day 2, to tell you the truth. And Velus is one of my sleeper guys on day 3. I do like what he brings, not just on special teams, which is good, but in the slot, and he's got the speed to be somebody that is a part-time player that can execute a specific portion of the offense and really make that defense adapt. And that's what I'm looking for. Thank you, Speedy. Appreciate you. Seth, we'll get something here that you've watched.
Just on an interesting note, Rap Sheets reporting that Brandon Cooks signed a 2-year extension with the Texans. That's going to pay him just under $20 million a year. So that's the going rate for a good receiver now. That's just it. That is what it is. You know, a guy like Hill, you're talking more like an average of 24, 25 million a year hit. A guy like, you know what I mean? That's the market now, guys. So keep in mind, that's just something to keep in mind because Brandon Cooks is a good receiver, but he's not a great one. He's a good one and a consistent one, but not a great one.
I agree. Bill, I would draft both Pickens and Mechie before Burks, in my opinion. Am I wrong? Yeah, you're taking a risk. I won't say you're wrong. You're taking a risk because what everybody likes to forget, and I know that Kenton, Craig, and Maddie are huge on Pickens. That's cool. I like Pickens games as well. But Pickens' game in 2021 was not what it was the season before that. And projecting him after his injury to be back to that in 2022 is a risk. Same thing with Mechie. He was very good. He was underneath, more athletic than you expect. But projecting him to be that good in the NFL after the injury is a risk. Whereas Burks, you see the skill set. There's no injury history there. So for me, that's why they're both down below. They're both explosive players when they're at their best. But until then, I can't draft them ahead of Burks. Only because you don't know what you're going to get. Now, I don't have the medicals the teams do, so maybe they're more comfortable with it. Maybe that's exactly what we see. But that's my reasoning. Does that ring true with you, Seth? Or are you like, nah, Burks ain't that good?
That sounds fair.
Okay. Well, you're cracking Chad up. So thank you, Chad. Appreciate you.
You know, all I need is one person who finds me amusing, and that makes my day. So
hopefully you're married to her.
Yeah, like 8 out of 10 times she thinks I'm pretty funny.
Brad, do you think that the shift to bigger wide receivers could be in response to all the too high safety looks, changing the offensive approach going forward, maybe?
I mean, the NFL...
Everybody's bigger than Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what teams do without Tyreek Hill. It is worth noting that Vic Fangio's scheming is becoming more common across the NFL, and you are seeing more teams, as offenses have shifted away from running the ball as much, defenses are saying, why are we keeping an extra safety in the box? Are we insane?
Right.
And they're also, safeties are becoming increasingly more rangy and more able to simultaneously help within the box. So I think that partly could be it, but I don't know if that necessarily means a shift to bigger, more physical wide receivers per se.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's just luck of the draw here, but thank you. Appreciate your question. And, you know, if we continue that and we see him draft 2 big guys, then maybe we start looking at it. You know, maybe there's enough athleticism to go around because the big guys in this class, I think, are more athletic than we've seen the last couple of classes in particular. Rev Debo, how are you? Thank you for the support. This may sound a little crazy, but I look at Burks and I see a lot of Sterling Sharp. Wow, I don't see that.
I saw Sterling as a better athlete. I mean, Sterling Sharp was amazing before he got hurt.
In contested catches, I will give you that. In aggression to the ball at the high point, I'm with you. But Sterling was a much better athlete in my memory. But, I was still in my 30s then. That was a joke, folks. I'm not that old. Lee, welcome to the memberships. Same thing for you if you want in the Discord. Stop it, Seth. Brandon, thank you. Appreciate you. Lee and Max, send me that email if you guys want, rgrpodcast@gmail. If you guys want into the Discord and you're at the rookie level. Sean, sorry. Could McColl be on the trade block after or during the draft? I don't think Casey would realistically re-sign him in 2023 with Kirk type money.
Oh, no, not even close to Kirk type money.
Who's going to trade for McColl Hardman?
Hardman has more value in Kansas City than he has in most offenses. And he adds more than people think to the Chiefs offense.
I'm with you there.
He's an explosive player. He's dangerous. It's kind of funny, like for us from the inside, it's like you get focused on the flaws. People on the outside are like, oh wow, a guy that was like the fourth option had 700 yards with the Chiefs, and he was more productive than people realize. It's like, oh, that's all on pop passes and that kind of stuff. Well, yeah, how many guys can take little pop passes for 30 yards? Right. That's not easy. Otherwise, every team would do it. And just think about what it looked like with DeAnthony Thomas running some of these same things, or Dexter McCluster running some of the same stuff. Didn't look nearly as good, did it? It's because McCole Hardman is a player with a certain skill set. So that's worth noting.
I'm with you there. Chris, thank you for the support. Who are your 3 starting cornerbacks opening day, in your opinion? L'Jarius, Stephon Gilmore, and Dax Hill.
Man, I hope they sign Gilmore. I'll go with that.
Yeah, I hope so too. We're going to wrap it up here, folks. Stuff is running down. Max, thank you very much. Appreciate the give back. Tom, what would your guess be what we have to give up to get into Williams? Both the ones and probably one of the thirds at the very least.
That dude's probably gone by 15, if not earlier.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Tom. With 4 wide receivers, 4 years, who would be considered a dime a dozen, like some guys gauge running backs now? Too expensive, and they're going coming out of college.
They're so much more important, and the problem is there's so many more on the field at any given time. So I don't think it'll be quite as dime a dozen. And hey, by the way, what's up, Glenn? Good to see you, buddy. I'm not wearing flip-flops. Sorry. And so I don't think it'll be quite a dime a dozen, but I do think with better and better guys coming out every year and these high-level contracts getting more and more expensive, I think we're seeing a bubble start. And I think eventually you're going to see a shift.
I hear you. I'm going to take these last 2 because we got to get out of here, folks. Thank you very much. Chase, appreciate you. Ontario Drummond from Ole Miss is my sleeper wide receiver. Look at his buddy Braylon Sanders as well. What's the Chiefs' answer at CB? I think it is Dax Hill. If it's not, they could come back in the second and look at Andrew Booth, who I think is going to slide into the second. I like his game a lot. Also, is this a make or break year for Spags? I think that it is. It's a tall thing. If it doesn't work out again, I think you got to look at moving on. Sean, 2 wide receivers in the top 60 with May wide receivers wanting QB money. It's fiscally responsible to use talented rookies. Casey only has 1 under contract for 2023. I can get down with that. I can see him double up wide receiver and edge in the top 60 and be happy.
If they went wide receiver, edge, I'd be perfectly fine with it.
Last one. Thank you, Wesley. What are the chances we jettison a pass rush on a pass rush and double down on DBs in the draft and zig while everyone zags? I think it's next to 0 because they have nothing in the tank pass rush wise.
Yep, I completely agree. And Spagnuolo does seem to want to keep building his defense from the front to the back, which is interesting because honestly, in a lot of ways, I think he's a better cover scheme defensive coordinator than he is in generating pass rush with his scheme. But that's probably for a different day.
I agree. I will see what Cullen does as well. And we will get to that, folks. We need to wrap it up because I have to get to school for Parents' Night. Thank you all for being here. Seth, thank you for being here. If you're new to us, like, sub, hit the bell, subscribe at the Substack for Real Minnesota Chiefs fan, please. And then, we'll have taken care of everything. Check out The Matrix at rogue8bc.com. Thank you and good night. We'll talk to you next time.